The Trojan horse is in. This pirate interview is a go. Move. Where is Cypher? Where is Zero?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live here with James Horan. Hope I pronounced it right this time. He is the voice actor in the upcoming game Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain as Skullface, as well as quite a few other voices in some of our favorite video games and shows. You can see him as Archangel Ethereal in Diablo 3, as well as on 24 and Lost. How are you doing today, James? You having a good Saturday?
I'm doing just fine. I'm kicking back, enjoying the day.
Well, we definitely appreciate you joining us. As always, joined here by my two co-hosts, KorruptRonin.
What's going on, guys? Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you, James, for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time for this interview. Honestly, I'm surprised that I was able to come up with the amount of questions I did have for this one, because I had no idea what to ask you specifically when it comes to this interview, mostly because of the work that you've done recently is kind of under wraps. But we do appreciate taking time to be here.
Okay.
And Young, yeah.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us today with James Horan, and thank you, James, for joining us. I'm a huge fan of 24, so it's awesome to meet someone who was in the cast for that. General Walsh from season 6. We also got Kate Stad in Lost, and I love that show as well. And that was so it's awesome to have you here with us, and yeah, we're gonna have a good interview.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we'd like to start out by having Young ask a question. He's going to start the interview off right, as always. So Young, take it away.
Sure. So for my first question, can you tell us a bit about yourself? Who is James Horan? How did his career as an actor begin, and how did you eventually end up playing Skullface?
Oh, wow. So we're going to go in the Wayback Machine. Well, I started acting in college. I was 19. I was a jock prior to that. Played football, ran track. I don't know, the bug bit. I think I wanted to do it in high school, but I was put off by the quality of stuff that was offered. And then when I got to college in Kentucky, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky originally, and I went to a small college in Danville, Kentucky called Center College, and it's called the Harvard of the South. And, I was an English major there, but it wasn't until my third year that I went out for a play, and I was cast as the Marquis de Sade in the play called Marat Sade. Mm-hmm. So I always like to call that my baptism by fire. Started out playing back then, and now I'm up to Skullface. So at 19, I played the Marquis de Sade, and then I did several other plays in college, and when it came time to graduate, I decided that I wanted to keep pursuing acting. So I was accepted into the MFA program. It's a Master of Fine Arts at the University of Iowa in Iowa City, another fine school, and I did a 2-year program there. And then I had to decide whether I wanted to continue with it, and then the big choice is Los Angeles or New York that all actors have to take. So I decided to go to LA because I knew one guy in LA and I didn't know anybody in New York. So I drove out to LA in my '63 Chevy, and I started hung up my shingle and just started working. I did a lot of I ended up doing soap operas in the beginning, which took me back to New York. I did Another World, All My Children, Loving.
Oh wow.
I did General Hospital out here for a while. So I did 4 contract roles on soaps over the years.
Nice.
The longest was Loving, which is an ABC soap. Mm-hmm. God, they're all gone now. There's only it's only 3 left.
Yeah.
But I didn't get into voiceover until about 20 years ago. People told me I had a good voice for years. I just thought voiceover was something you did when you retired. But
Wow.
You can make some money.
Right.
So I got into it, and I like the fact that there's so much less ego involved, and nobody really cares what you look like. And we're all supportive of each other.
Yeah.
In the VO community. So and then I ended up doing over 80 video games and a couple of animated series.
Oh yeah,
man.
And I recently did a series called Transformers Prime.
Yes.
Right.
I did Wheeljack, one of the Autobots.
Yep.
Clint Eastwood-esque character.
No, yeah, a lot
you
of
have the voice for it.
Absolutely.
There's a brief overview.
And so, how did you come to play Skullface eventually? How did you hear about the auditions for that? What's the story?
Well, it's like in voiceover world, almost all of us rely on our agents to submit us. I've been with the same agent for 20 years. I've never had another voice agent. Her name is Sandy Schnarr. And now the company is called AVO Talent. And she's been great to me. She submits me on things, and we either go into the office to audition, or most of us have home studios. I have one here in my basement where you can record MP3s and you send them in as your audition.
Nice.
So then you just end up auditioning so many times, and then when they contact you and say, "Oh, you booked this," you go, "Oh, great! What was that again?" That's it for okay. So then you go in. When I went in, for instance, for this, I have to say, guys, that I'm not a gamer. I don't play video games, but I have a 9-year-old who loves video games. But we're not letting him play the shooter games yet.
I see. No,
Nice.
But I didn't know anything about Metal Gear. I'd heard of it, of course. And this character, when they showed me they had a photo, and
right.
And from the look of him, I thought he might sound something like this. And I remember the creator, I've forgotten his name, the Japanese
Hideo
gentleman.
Kojima?
Yes, he was there at the beginning, and
Oh, wow.
I met him, and I remember asking him when I was in the booth, asking them through him if they wanted some kind of voice like that, and he said no, he wanted just a normal voice. So that's pretty much why it just sounded like me.
Awesome. No, we love what you've done with it so far. People feel very threatened by your voice presence at Skullface.
People in the neighborhood feel the same way.
Wow. That's yeah. All right. So yeah, thank you.
He's going to talk to
Well, thank you very much for answering that question.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, as far as to touch on, something you mentioned, you don't have to necessarily be, a gamer to be a great voiceover artist and to do, the kind of stuff that we've come to see through many voice actors that we've interviewed. Is some of them actually don't play games. They appreciate the games and they like, the industry itself, but they don't necessarily play themselves, which I think actually might help in some regards. That, instead of trying to stereotype yourself into a character that maybe you've played before, as you going in with not a whole lot of gaming experience, you've got a fresh slate to kind of build a character. So that kind of leads me into my question that I have for you is, when they were having you do Metal Gear for Skullface, did you record and do everything at once, or did they bring you in for Ground Zeroes and then call you back months later to do the Phantom Pain?
Yes, yeah. In fact, I had to refresh me because I'd forgotten what I did on the first one, because he didn't say much in the first one, as I recall, right?
There was some, there was there was probably I don't know, around 8 or 9 minutes, maybe even a little bit less of dialogue through like the tapes, the ending cutscene, and everything together.
Where he throws the tape to the kid in the cage or something, and says, "You deserve this," or something.
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
Now, soldier.
Yeah, that game is, like we said, it's been out for a year now. Actually, a little over. I think they had a year anniversary thing where it went on sale. But yeah, it's been out for a little over a year. How long after completing that did they ask you to come back for Phantom Pain? And was it much more work than than what you had in Ground Zeroes?
It wasn't, as I recall. I don't really remember what I said, but you guys gave me some lines here that I said. Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, it was at least, I thought it was maybe 9 months or 10, maybe less than that. But some time certainly went by. And then they didn't show me any video, so I didn't. As the first time they had video that they showed me. Second time it was just creating a character again.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for answering that. We appreciate it. Ronan, your question for James.
Absolutely. I know you talked about the fact that you had to change the voice into like a normal voice for to come up with the voice for Skullface. But my question is, when you originally approached the role for Skullface, when you came up with the voice for him originally before it was changed, how did you approach that? Like, what did you have in mind to come up with something like that for this mysterious and enigmatic character? like what did you what was your original approach like for that character? I should say before it was changed.
Well, it's like getting back to the other question. It's the way I think actors, I at least as an actor, theatrically trained, you sort of approach a character, and I like to find a voice for the character.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, because I've done a lot of Star Trek appearances over the
Right.
years. You may know that.
Yeah.
I've done 4 characters, 3 of which were aliens. So
Nice.
you know, I have experience wearing like 4 hours of makeup on my face.
Right. Right.
I played a Jem Hadar in Deep Space Nine,
Yeah.
and you know, my call time was like 3 a.m. for a 7 o'clock set call. This is me in the makeup booth, putting stuff on my face, and then, you know, a couple hours later, I wake up and I look in the mirror and I go, "Whoa!" Because you guys who don't know, it's a full like lizard head on your face. So, you know, then you go, well, what kind of voice would this guy have? So my tendency was to make him more of a down here kind of a talk, which is why when I saw Skullface, I thought, well, whatever disfigured his face perhaps affected his vocal cords too. So my tendency was to go toward that voice.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but I was directed to make him so he doesn't have any kind of impairment to his vocal cords, which is fine. But yeah, it's just as an actor, you have a tendency to want to find a new voice for each character. I don't know if you guys have you interviewed Steve Bloom?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm actually going to be speaking to him today. He's at a convention here, and that's where I'm going after we're done with this interview. So it's going to be fun to talk to him.
Say hello for me.
I will.
Yeah, we worked together on Transformers Prime. He was Starscream on that, and and I've seen him at different things. We've appeared at the same conventions, but he's amazing with the different voices that he comes up with. And so I appreciate. I'm not even sure he had a theatrical background. He doesn't do on camera. I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we all approach it in similar ways, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just trying to find a different voice.
Now, going off on that, what are some things you keep in mind when you play the character of Skullface? So it's not just you know, but it's like a different character. What are some things you keep in mind that you may know about Skullface in order to make him, you know, threatening and what have you?
Wow. I have to be honest and say I don't know much about him except what they've told me, which is, how he was disfigured and what I read online about, boiling oil on his face. And I read that paragraph just recently to refresh my memory in the Wikipedia of his sort of monologue about how he became that way.
Right.
I really don't know. I'm not trying to be coy. I just don't.
Yeah, no, sure.
It's okay.
That's funny because we interviewed Christopher Randolph, who plays one of the characters in MGS5, Huey, and he too was like, yeah, they didn't tell me much about what I had to pry for some information, but they wouldn't tell me much about, the whole story because that's just so under wraps.
Well, I think if I had more of an arc to the character, like or he was more of a main character, I'd certainly want to know more of those things.
Sure.
But when he doesn't have all that much to say, I just kind of let them fill me in on what they need.
Sure, absolutely. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Young, I think you actually have the next question.
Oh, right. How familiar are you with? You kind of answered this before, but have you played any or completed any of the Metal Gear games, or have you tried studying up on the stories of each of the games just to see where you're at with Skullface, or do you just go in just thinking, okay, there's a new character, I don't need any of all the other information, just focus on Skullface?
Yeah, the same kind of thing. I really didn't do a lot of homework because when I went in the first time, they just kind of told me what to say and showed me the picture, and then the next day you're like doing 50 other things, and every day I have like 5 auditions for other things, and it's like, who am I this time?
Right.
I see.
It's like my wife tells me I forget things. I say, well, I do things and I forget them. It's like I can't keep auditions in my head. If I book it, then I go, oh yeah, what was that? As I said before.
Right.
Then you go back and refresh yourself. It's like I did a character on Skylanders. You guys,
Skylanders. Yeah.
Character of Cluck.
Yes.
polar opposite of Skullface.
Right? Just a bit.
Yeah, they had me back. I did it about 2 years ago, I guess, and then they had me back a couple of months ago to do a couple more lines for his character, and then I'm actually booked next week to do another episode of Cluck.
Nice.
Have to refresh the voice. Okay, who was he? So I'll go back and I'll listen to what I did.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So our next question is actually it's not Metal Gear related. It's more about the work that you did in Diablo and Metal Gear combined. Did you ever feel doing like darker games like that, like a game like Diablo and some of the situations and things that we've seen in Metal Gear? Did you ever read any of the scripts for those games and be like, "Wow, I'm this guy," or "I'm playing this character"?
You know, again, they rarely let you read much of anything because I think they want things under wraps so much.
Right.
You sign those NDAs, those non-disclosure agreements.
Right.
So you don't get to read much. I always want to know as much as possible about any character I'm playing.
Right.
But in voiceover world, you sort of take what you get, especially in games, because as I say, there's so much under wraps.
Yeah.
So you just kind of go with what you got, and you come up with a voice, and then they either say yay or nay.
Right.
Yeah.
But as far as like the content in those games, did you ever find like being in a game like Diablo, whose focuses hack and slash gory stuff, or with Metal Gear having some controversial elements, were you ever uncomfortable recording in any of those games?
I wasn't aware of the uncomfortable elements.
Wow.
Well,
Nice.
I guess being in the dark is better than knowing, and at least some of the.
In this case.
I believe, in Diablo, I think Archangel Ethereal wants to kill all of the humans because they, breached heaven or something, and then in Ground Zeroes you've got Skullface trying to kill our beloved big boss. So there's all sorts of stuff that go along with that, and I think that's actually a cool thing that maybe you don't have the whole story, which maybe will play into your character's performance better.
Well, yeah, you can't. As an actor, you can't make those moral judgments. Sometimes it's like I certainly try to find out or figure out why the character does the things he does. If you're playing any kind of a psycho on stage or on television or film or anything, you want to know those things. But like I said before, when they're so closed about letting any information out, it's really hard to unless I don't know if you're the lead, or Kiefer Sutherland or Robin Atkin Downs, they got more to do, right? So
Exactly.
they probably have more input and exchange on what the character is going on.
Sure.
Okay.
What's going on?
I think Ronan has a question that kind of tail off of this one. Ronan?
Absolutely. And this is kind of a question that comes from myself and from Kevin Kerr.
The guy who helped us set up the interview with you.
So I know you talked about the fact that you don't really know too much about the character. Most voice actors don't. But, in Ground Zeroes, we learn about Skullface's various torture methods that he's used against two particular characters in the game. Were you ever able to get any background story about what these were? Were you able to learn about what Skullface did in this game? Were you able to find out about any of the disturbing scenes that happened that he was a part of at all?
There was like some implication of rape in there, here and there. He did some pretty obscene things.
So I was wondering if you knew about that at all.
No.
Wow.
Don't see any of that again.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because
They must do his recording and Chico and Paz's all separate and then combine them together.
Yeah, or something.
That's interesting.
That's crazy.
I'm not in with anybody else. It's rare. I've never done a video game actually where when you're doing an animated series, you're all in the room together, which is great. So it's like a rep company.
Yeah, yeah.
You all get to see each other act. You play off each other, I love that.
Sure.
Right.
That was the great thing about Transformers, and really worked with some really fine actors. And but I'd love. I've worked with Kiefer Sutherland 3 times now. I did 24, and I did Monsters vs. Aliens. It was a Halloween special because I did the voice of Dr. Cockroach. And then I did this, but we were never. I actually, even in 24, I met him, but I wasn't working with him.
Sure,
So,
wow. Yeah, yeah.
So it's weird, especially in video games, and I've done so many that they always record you separately. And
Yeah,
then
Yeah,
that's
we heard
weird.
we heard something similar with Mark Meir. We interviewed him last week,
Mhm.
and he pretty much said the same thing about how after a while you're not in the room with the other voice actors. You're kind of just hearing what they're saying most of the time in your headphones, and you're kind of just there on your own. So that makes sense. That makes
So I
sense.
guess some of the lines are given, like there is the implication of something, but you don't know exactly
Right.
what's happening all the time. Oh, that's interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
only when they show you some video, and like I said, they let that out very sparingly.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know that changes a whole lot of the dynamics behind how all this stuff is recorded. But Yong,
Yeah.
you've got our next question.
Yep. So this is another question about Skullface, and again, we know that you may not know too much because of how closely they keep
Sure.
that stuff to their chest. But would you say that Skullface, just based on what you've read, what you remember, would you say Skullface plays more of an antagonistic role? Because some of the footage we saw might suggest he could be an ally at some point. From some of the trailers we saw, but at the same time in Ground Zeroes, it's pretty clear that he had a large part to play in some of the destructive and climactic stuff that happened. So, well, from what you remember, would you say Skullface is more of an antagonist, a villain, or would you say he can be an ally in some occasions?
Man, I gotta say, I really don't know.
Oh wow.
I mean, it's like, of course, I would love to say he's going to be an ally, rather than because it also gives the character a little more dimension than just one note.
Yeah.
I mean that even what I read just recently on like his why he became the way he became. He went through this disfiguring accident as a child, I imagine.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they like the woman in the hospital said, why don't you should let the poor thing die. And so with that history in him, it's maybe he was if he had not had this accident, he would be a different person.
Sure.
Very true.
Do they indicate at all what country he's from?
Hungary, I think.
Yeah, somewhere in
think,
there.
yeah, there's somewhere
region
I think
somewhere
there.
in the
there's
region.
actually a point in the game where you speak a bit of Hungarian. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh no, I don't. But
Do you speak Hungarian?
no, I don't.
Interesting. Well,
I think that was it. It came up in the first deal about do they want any kind of accent, because I think they did mention in the beginning that he was Hungarian, and they said no. So
interesting.
Again, it must be a script, and you just read it, man. I think that's cool because it sounds like Hungarian.
It sounds like you were very involved in that, but yeah, you just read the lines and
well,
That's a testament to your
probably
voice.
had a native speaker saying it, and then you just parrot it.
I see.
Oh, okay.
Sounded very convincing. I wouldn't know from an
Haven't-
actual.
If I hear an accent, I can pretty much do it.
Wow,
Nice.
that's awesome.
A testament to the voice acting abilities here of James, guys. I tell you that a lot of really hard and believable things in the game, even though they keep you just as enigmatic as they keep Skullface in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't reveal too much to you, and they don't reveal too much about him, which is I think that's awesome. It makes me want to learn more about this character in general. Which according to you, you said he doesn't have too big of a role. How long do you think, or like how much recording did you do for the Phantom Pain? Obviously not specifics. You don't have to tell us anything that you remember, but about how long were you doing recordings for Skullface?
Oh, I was there maybe a maximum of a couple of hours, maybe an hour and a half. I can't, again, I think it was pretty quick because I didn't have that much to say, even in pain, as I recall.
Interesting, really.
All right, now we've got the mystery deepens around the Skullface character.
Right.
Ronan, your next question.
All right, so mine it goes along the lines of around another Skullface question, and unfortunately we kind of came to this interview with a lot of Skullface questions in hand. So
We're gonna get through them.
we
Don't
apologize for that if we can't really answer those.
Sure.
But my question to you is, from what you can recall at least, or what you were able to gather about Skullface, what is your opinion about him as a character? If you can come up with anything to drum up what you think about him as a whole.
Oh, I think he's interesting. It would be interesting to like play him in if they ever did a feature. All right, I don't know if that's in the works. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
They've taken some video games to film, haven't they?
Right.
Yeah, they have for
Yeah.
sure.
They've got 3 or 4 working right now.
Do they?
Metal Gear included.
Yeah. I mean, even like Adolf Hitler was a really intriguing character in terms of just the what shaped him to be what he became. And for some reason Skullface and Hitler kind of blend in my mind a little bit. I guess because I've been reading like this is the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II.
Right.
It was Victory in Europe Day, and just like 3 weeks ago was when Hitler put a bullet through his brain in his bunker, but it's just the whatever shaped him to end up being that uber villain.
Yeah.
I would like to approach Skullface as a live action thing that way. So what I know about him, just to answer your question as best I can, he seems like he was certainly shaped by that accident.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some glimmers of humanity left in him.
Right.
But again, I don't know enough about that too. But as an actor, I would certainly you try to find even Darth Vader. When you first see him, he's just villain. But then later you find he has those other where he lets Luke live because he's
right.
his son.
Right.
That's what we as actors always like to have dimension around.
Sure.
Yeah.
Around a character. Anyway.
Awesome.
Pretty awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got so many amazing questions for you. But Young, you're next.
Yeah, this is I'm gonna change my question because this is pretty much something I already answered. But I'm curious about your roles in 24 and Lost. I love those shows. So how is it like? First of all, have you heard of those shows prior to being in 24 and Lost? And what was the experience like?
Oh, my wife and I, we love 24. Such a well done series, and Kiefer I thought was amazing in that. So when I got to audition for it, I was like, oh wow, it would have been more interesting to play certainly a character that had more to do.
Sure.
But I was happy to play this Air Force general that ordered some F-16s into the air when there was something was being threatened, but. It was a day on the set.
Sure,
and
it
didn't take that long.
Sure, and Lost, you played Kate's father, I believe.
I did.
Is abusive, her abusive.
We had watched Lost, and I certainly appreciated that show too. It was J.J. Abrams, for crying out loud.
Right.
So well done. We got to go to Hawaii.
Right.
And it was soon after we were married, and. So she enjoyed that.
Awesome.
And we only, again, I shot for a day. I just, it was just sort of a flashback where you find out what Kate did, which was the name of the episode, in fact.
Right.
Because I think they had intimated that Kate was wanted for something. And it was for killing her old man.
Yep.
But, again, it was what little I got to do was, it was interesting to play some aspects of the character because you see that he's a drinker, obviously, and he may or may not care about his daughter, but he certainly is. It's intimated that he abuses her or has abused her in the past, sexually or otherwise.
Right.
So just in that little bit of screen time, you had the challenge as an actor is to get that across.
Sure.
Like it worked. I put the scene on my reel.
It came off just fine.
It was awesome, man.
Yeah, and she's certainly. I'm happy to see her doing well for herself. My little girl.
Yeah, exactly.
My next question bounces into the realm of Fallout. Do you recall doing the King voice work for Fallout? How was it doing a character like that from a game that's set, in the future, but it has an old-timey feel to it? Was it fun to work as the King?
The King, baby. Yeah, man. I was an Elvis fan from way back, man.
That's awesome. I loved that character in Fallout. Was it different working in a game like that than some of the other games that you've worked in, being, you know, the extensive list of like dialogue and things like that?
Yeah, it certainly had more to do. You know, it was kind of a apocalyptic world, I suppose.
Right.
And this guy was obsessed with all things Elvis, I suppose, right?
That's
And,
that's me.
yeah, that's you. Okay. Well, hey, when I was a kid, Elvis was in his heyday, and I combed my hair like him. I had pictures of him on the wall and saw all of his movies, and yeah, it was just so it wasn't a big stretch for me to try to be the king.
That's awesome, man. I think a lot of people really enjoyed that particular character, even though, you know, as far as the Fallout story, how big and immersive it is, he's a small part, but I think everybody that's played Fallout New Vegas knows about the king, man. So that's awesome. We're so glad you brought that character to life. I couldn't think of many other voice actors that I would rather see in that. But Ronan, your next question.
All right, so yeah, this also goes back into a bit of your previous work outside of Metal Gear Solid. So I know you've done a lot of voices for let's say smaller characters in games. For example, you did some of the voices of the thugs and the henchmen in the Batman Arkham series. So my question to you is, what is the transition like going from small roles like the henchmen, for example, or smaller characters, let's say Slim Cognito and Ratchet and Clank, going from roles like that to something major, like Skullface? Are there any changes in direction that you have to pay attention to when you do that?
Well, Stanislavski, who wrote books on acting, as a famous Russian theater man, he was famous for saying there are no small roles, only small actors.
Yeah,
that's right.
So it's like that hit me early on in my training, and you approach everything because these people have a life, and they are. So no matter how small the role is, you try to infuse it with as much life as you would a larger role, because they're still people, and you're trying to breathe life into those characters. So just to answer your question, I just always try to give a voice that's believable and know as much as possible about them.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And the King, for example, I felt like he just gave off so much personality just with what little he had to say, and I already could think up of like what kind of life he had, just from the voice by itself. So it's I totally get what you mean.
Awesome.
It's awesome.
And he sings on the side.
Before we move on to our next question, I've got a real quick question for you. Has anybody ever told you that you sound very close like Kiefer Sutherland? Have you ever got that before?
I haven't necessarily gotten that. I've certainly gotten Clint Eastwood in the past, and I've done Sam Elliott's voice a few times.
The more you talk to us right now, we just got done playing Ground Zeroes. We played the whole game right before you came on, and just hearing like your voice, you sound an awful lot like Kiefer in some respects, in as far as like tone and stuff, and it's curious to us. We've got some fan theories and stuff that we're going to talk about. But Yong, you've got the next question for James, don't you?
Yep. Right. So going back to Skullface a bit, I was surprised to learn that you in Phantom Pain, you said you don't have as much to record as I think a lot of us thought. You said Skullface may be I guess a bit of a smaller part than most people may think. So my question to you is, do you think Skullface will play this based on what you remember? Is he going to play a large, important kind of key role in the story, or is he more of a small cog in a big machine, would you say?
I cannot say, because I do not. Not being coy. I don't recall the lines, and I'm sure that the creators are happy about that.
Sure. So you finished recording for Phantom Pain. That's been done for a while now.
I think so. I mean, they haven't called me back. I don't know. Is there another one in the works?
No, not that we know of.
We know of.
If they called you back to reprise that role, is that something that you would be interested in doing, like getting more in depth with that particular character? As I know, some of the other voice actors we talk to, they say the more that they play a character, the more attached they grow to it for instance, Tasia Valenza, she played Sniper Wolf in Metal Gear Solid 1, and she had just a couple lines, and she really didn't pay much attention to it, but when they called her back to reshoot the whole thing, she got way more into the character. She did a cosplay of it. She, researched it more. Is that something that you'd be interested in doing with Skullface?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it'd be great to do him in a feature film, or
You hear that? Who's the director of the Metal Gear
Yeah, there you
Solid
go.
movie? This guy wants you to do this.
I want to be in it.
Skullface. There you go. And he's
Well, even like I was going to say, like Jack Ryder in the Batman thing. They've put me back 3 times, I guess, to do that character. And I don't know that much about it.
Right.
But it's every time it's interesting to kind of freeze and build on what went before.
Sure.
Right. That's awesome.
Now, when you did Skullface, you had the dots in your face and stuff? You did the facial capture, I'm assuming, or was it just voice?
No, it was just voice. I didn't do any mocap.
Oh, really?
That's surprising because they have you credited as the facial capture in the game.
Really?
Yeah. We just watched the credits and it said facial and voice capture James Horan.
Maybe I had some things on my face. I seriously don't recall.
Interesting.
No, it's okay. That's all right.
I think
Okay.
you definitely probably would have. It's one of the ones where they sit you down in the booth with like 90 cameras all around you. You don't recall sitting in front of a bunch of cameras like that?
It's possible.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
It's possible.
I love it, James. I love it. Maybe.
It sounds reasonable that happened.
You might be Skullface reincarnated. I tell you, there's just so much mystery
There you
here.
go.
That's right.
Young, did you have any other parts for that question?
No, that's it for that question.
Ronan.
All right, so going back to a lot of your previous roles, like I mentioned earlier, you did a lot of other roles in games, but looking over a lot of the roles that you've done in TV shows and games, for example, a lot of them have been antagonistic roles or villain roles. You've done some protagonist roles, of course. My question to you is, which one do you prefer between the two of those? Do you prefer antagonistic roles or protagonistic roles, the villain or the hero?
Bad guy, James.
Oh, I like I said, I played bad guys almost my whole career. I rarely, I guess it was just my voice and my look. I'm kind of angular, but then I like lately I've gotten into on-camera commercials because I'm not doing much. Yeah, I have a Geico spot running now.
Yeah.
And it's like in the last maybe 10 years, I've really been doing these on-camera commercials where I get to be funny, and my kid came along like almost 9 years ago now, and I tell you, like I don't necessarily enjoy being a bad guy anymore. I really, this having a child just brought out this yummy lovey stuff inside of me.
Nice.
But it's fun to do comedy. I've done comedy on stage. In theater, I've done comedies and played funny guys. But I don't know, in film and TV, it just didn't happen. So, but I certainly like to do more comedies.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. So, sorry, my mic was muted. Our next question is, I think actually this might be a good point to, at least because I think I'm done with my major questions.
Sure.
We spoke with Quentin Flynn earlier today, and I told you kind of pre-interview that Quentin had a little story that he wanted you to tell us and the fans, if it's possible, regarding how you guys met up reading a particular book. Can you tell us about that story?
Well, Quentin Flynn is a good Irishman, like I am. Our heritage is Irish, and we had the same voice agent for a long time. I'm still with her. He's no longer there. But I went to Ireland for the first time in 1999. I was really just looking for my roots. My father's parents are both from Ireland. We're both from Ireland. I never knew them. They died before I was born. My father died when I was 3, so I didn't know him. But I was always fascinated by the Irish connection. So I finally got there, and I was following the path to find out where they were from in Ireland. I wanted to see the land. And I was traveling with a friend of mine, and we were in Dublin, just in looking around at the sites, and one of the ones you go to is Trinity College, of course, and there's a famous old book called the Book of Kells, Kells, which is thousands of years old, I imagine, and it's one of the things you see there. And lo and behold, who do I run into in Dublin at the Trinity College at the Book of Kells, but Quentin Flynn, who's also there, and we just literally just bumped into each other, and what were the odds? But
Wow.
both Ireland, we said, the little people were looking out for us.
Did you know him prior to how long have you known Quentin?
I knew him because we had the same voice agent, as I mentioned.
Okay.
Oh, right.
So I used to see him in the in the office, and we talked about Irish stuff because we do Irish accents and kick them around, and he told me a little bit about his family and where they were from in Ireland.
Right.
And I ended up becoming an Irish citizen actually through my grandparents. So I have dual citizenship.
Wow.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
And now here you are. You guys bumped into each other there, and then now you guys are both going to be on our show.
Small world.
You guys are crazy. So he actually plays. I don't know if because you said you weren't familiar with a lot of the Metal Gear games, but he actually plays one of the main Metal Gear characters. He plays Raiden, which is the playable character in number 2, which was back in, when did that come out, guys? 2007.
Oh, cool.
Something like that. Yeah, he plays a character as Raiden in that game. You play him as the main character. The story and the focus is still on Snake and all of that kind of stuff. But you play as Raiden, get to learn his story, and then he actually got his own spin-off game called Metal Gear Rising, where he's the main character. It's his story. It's his kind of stuff. And then now we have you coming into the Phantom Pain, but you actually predate Raiden. Like your character's storyline and stuff takes place prior to the one that Quentin does. So I think a lot of fans are going to find that cool that you guys not only know each other in real life and have bumped into each other that way, but now you guys are intersecting here on the show. You're going to intersect in some small way in the Metal Gear universe, and we think that's awesome. And we can't. We're happy to have Quentin on. I believe next week or so he's going to come on and talk to us. So maybe he'll have another funny story for us. But that's crazy that two guys from the same agent in the same games bumping into each other.
Robin Atkin-Downs and I have the same agent.
Does that mean you're going to help us get Robin on the show as well?
I could certainly do that. Yeah.
Really?
Awesome.
Wow. He's impossible to get in contact with now, at least from my side. I've called his agent a few times, and nobody knows who the right person to contact to get a hold of him is, but we would love to have him on the show at some point.
Oh, yeah, I'll shoot him a line. I mean, I don't see him that often anymore. I think he records probably a lot from home, or we miss each other in the office,
Sure.
but...
that would be amazing. I appreciate that, James.
I will definitely shoot him.
We get the best guests here on the show, guys. I tell you what, I haven't met.
And there's the kitty making an appearance.
That's Titan. This cat literally watches Metal Gear. That's why he's here, because he's a Metal Gear fan. But I think that's awesome. We definitely appreciate that. We have the most humble guest, James, and you are no exception to that. Everybody that we bring on is very open and has a great time here, and we hope you're having a good time with us. Our next question comes from Yong. But Yong, before you ask James, how much more time do we have with you, do you think? I know you've got something that you've got to do here in a little bit.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
I was asking how much more time do you think you have?
My wife is coming home soon with my child, and so
15, 20 minutes?
I would say, maybe 10 or 15 minutes more.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
I have one
Yong.
last question for myself, and then I have one or two from the community. But so for
you
myself,
can go ahead and knock out all of those. You can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So what other work do you do apart from playing Skullface nowadays? What are some present and future projects you're involved in right now where we can see you or hear you from?
Oh, well, as I said, I'm reprising the character in Skylanders.
Right.
Okay.
I just got. I'm waiting to hear confirmation of a booking on that. And I've just I did this. I got this Geico commercial running right.
Geico.
And they're talking to me about possibly doing some VO for other Geico commercials.
Okay.
Right.
Because man, I think all those Geico spots are just funny.
Are they replacing the lizard?
Yeah.
No, well, that'd be cool, but no, as far as right now, I'm just VO stuff that a lot of commercials that that just air all over the place.
Sure.
narration in some spots. I'd love to do another animated series. I've been reading for some, and I haven't gotten confirmation from them, but that'd be fun to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to be going to Birmingham, England in August to do a Transformers convention.
Oh, awesome.
Wow. Nice.
Make sure you guys check them out there.
Yeah, if anybody's in England, please. It's in Birmingham in August. It's called Auto Assembly. And it's I think, as I understand it, it's the largest Transformers convention in Europe, if not the world. And a gal named Sumali Montano, you guys know her? Sumali, she played RC on Transformers Prime with me.
Oh, cool.
And we also have the same voice agent. She's going to be there with me, and that'll be fun.
Sure.
So that's about it for upcoming projects.
Sure.
And
You think we'll ever see Skullface in one of the Geico commercials? The new mascot of Geico.
see the comedic side of Skullface?
Exactly.
Yeah, right,
there we go.
No, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, there we go. That'd be great. All right, so now I'm gonna dive into some community questions, and a lot of these we already kind of answered. So I'm gonna just pick out one or two.
Okay.
So let me just look through these. Now you already said you don't remember much about speaking Hungarian, because somebody asked, was it hard for you to speak Hungarian, and you just don't remember much about it.
Man, I don't. If you put it in front of me right now, I probably would go, eh?
Sure.
I don't know.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just looking through some of these, making sure I don't repeat any questions. Has there been any particular difficulties? This is from MGO feedback from Twitter. Has there been any difficult aspects to voicing Skullface that you recall, or was it just pretty, for the most part, relatively easy, natural role that came for you?
Straightforward. I mean, simple. It was nice in the beginning to have the creator there who, seemed pleased with what I did, and you got his, he put in his input, and I seemed to give him what he wanted. So,
Awesome.
yeah, it wasn't difficult.
Nice. Awesome. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. Because I know I have some questions like, do you think we will ever sympathize with Skullface? But I know that's something that you probably don't know at this point.
I don't, and
right.
it would be nice if it happened.
Sure. But no, that's pretty much all the questions that I have. Ronin and
Ronin, did you have
Daly.
anything?
Yeah, I got one last question, in fact.
I hope it's the one I hope it is.
Got a few, so we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
But so while researching a lot of your previous work, I noticed that you were the voice of Scar
Yes, it's the
in
one.
Kingdom Hearts 2. So my question to you is, how did you approach a legendary role like that? And did you do any research prior to, like, with the previous voice actor? Did you take any tips from him when you approached that role for Kingdom
That
Hearts?
Jeremy guy?
Yeah.
That Jeremy guy.
That Jeremy guy.
Another
Yeah.
God, no place for a young prince.
Nice.
So I just, of course, I listened. I tried to emulate him.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I have a good ear. If I can hear somebody, it's like I said, they asked me to do Sam Elliott a few times. I did an animated thing, guest star on the Grim Adventures of something
Billy
man.
Mandy.
Billy and Mandy, yeah.
I played they wanted a Sam Elliott cowboy type character. I did a 5-Hour Energy commercial a few years ago where I was the 5-Hour Energy sheriff, and I was kind of doing a Sam Elliott thing. I actually got to meet Sam Elliott at a party, which was
Oh, wow, nice.
Did your impression in front of him?
no, because I met him and we were talking, and I think I did say something about I have to do. They call on me to do you sometimes, and. And I said, he said, "You look familiar. Where have I seen you?" He said that, and I said I enjoyed his work in Gettysburg, because he was in the Civil War film Gettysburg, and I did the sequel, Gods and Generals.
Right.
And then he said, "Wow, that must be it. I just saw that."
Nice.
And a small part in that.
Sure.
Anyway, Jeremy Irons. Yeah, I certainly he was amazing as Scar.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Hoping to emulate what he did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think people
Thank you.
enjoyed it. Ronan, do you have anything else?
No, that's it for me.
All right, awesome. Well, I think, James, that's going to wrap it up for the questions. We know you got to get out of here soon, so we asked you prior to the interview something the fans will like to do, I believe, 2 different Skullface quotes for us. So if you could, in your best Skullface voice, give us the quotes, and we're gonna sit back and be quiet unless you have a question about it.
I'll give it a go.
All right, thank you.
So we have the Trojan horse is in. This pirate interview is a go. Move. Where is Cypher? Where is Zero?
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tell the fans that are watching here, how can they keep track of you? Do you have a Twitter? I couldn't find your Twitter. I don't know if you have. You don't have a Twitter? Do you have a fan page, Facebook page? I know you have a website, which is jameshoran.com, correct?
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I try to keep that up to date. I'm a little behind right now, but I'm going to work on that. So yeah, that's the best way. Just
okay. Well, check out James's website, guys. He's doing some amazing voice work from tons of different games, and as we've said earlier, you can check him out in a couple different shows. 24, Lost. Make sure you watch his Geico commercials. Don't you skip those on YouTube now, all right? That James puts in good work for those. And James, thank you for joining us, man. We really, really appreciate it. Hopefully we can have you come back on the show after the Phantom Pain is released, and maybe you've got some other projects under your belt before then. I believe it's in September, and then it'll probably take everybody a little while to beat it. So maybe we can have you closer to the end of the year come back and talk about some of the things that aren't necessarily under NDA anymore. We can be a little more open about the story of Skullface and anything that you've worked on prior to that.
Sure.
Awesome. We look forward to having you back. Thank you again so much for joining us, and we will see you next time, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Bye.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Ciao.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Voice of Skullface. A very enigmatic interview within itself.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. I don't want to take anything away from James, but I honestly feel like some of the stuff he might have actually known. He doesn't seem like he's not a stupid guy. He doesn't seem like he's gonna forget some of the stuff right there. But I feel like he's being honest in the fact that maybe we don't see as much of Skullface as we think we're going to see. And if we had a little more time with him, I was going to explain to him why we think that, because as he stated by his own admission, he doesn't play a lot of games. So he might not understand the way that they've portrayed his character as sort of the main villain in Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain. Yang, what do you think?
Yeah, no, now I think he's going to be a small cog in a big machine. I think Skullface is, from what I'm hearing, I mean, he's not in it as much as we think he will be. And
Right.
But I don't know, that also may have to do with the fact that he really doesn't seem to remember too much about playing the role, because he has just so many things going on
Right.
at the same time now that one role, forget one run, do another, and just focus on that
Exactly.
role. And I totally get that. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, there's always that possibility that he's like a boss, like Raven or something, who is a boss but doesn't have too much.
Sure. Yeah.
Behind.
But I don't know. It's weird because Skullface is made out to be such a big deal in Ground Zeroes that for me to hear that he may not play as big of a role as we think he will, or maybe he will. He just won't talk all that much. He'll do a lot, but just won't talk a lot. Kind of like a Big Boss, where they kind of said, he's not going to talk too much. He's for the most part a relatively silent protagonist. So maybe he's kind of like more of a silent antagonist. Although in Ground Zeroes he had a lot to say. But no.
What do you think, Ronan? Do you think Young's on the right track?
I think he's on the right track. Absolutely. I feel like from the way he made it seem, at least, Skullface may not have that big of a role in
You guys are my favorites, man. Y'all's theories, man. There's so many things going on. Young, do you tell me something, Young? And I got to ask you first because you've got the big theory videos out of here. And guys, the post show today is not going to be that long. I got to go meet with Steve Bloom.
Oh, right.
That guy that I didn't know who he was. But all right, I'm going to catch a lot of flack for saying this, but I'm going to just say it.
I'll just say it.
He sounds like the medic. Okay, there, I said it. He sounds like the medic. He sounds similar to Kiefer. Do you think that he can do other roles besides Skullface, and because he's not credited as any other, but we also don't see those other characters credited as anybody else.
Sure. Well, first of all, I personally don't see the similarities at all between him and...
I don't either.
Listen to the interview.
I see no resemblance whatsoever, personally.
I just played the game, so it's like fresh in my ear.
No,
like, go back and listen to the cutscene and just put the interview next to it.
No, the thing is, Kiefer has this very... He's always kind of... He always sounds like he's in a hurry. He's always talking like this, you know. He's just very slow and methodical. You know, he's just very, you know, like this. It just sounds different. It's just,
I don't know. I mean, I think it's the tone, like that might be throwing me off. I just think like the voice tone. I think you're right. The delivery is definitely slower,
absolutely,
and stuff like that. But the tone, like of him and Kiefer, like I think. Also, it kind of the echo in his room where he was at. It sounded a lot like the helicopter scene that I had just watched. You know,
of course.
So, you know, I don't know, man. He's a confusing character, and he's a confusing guy. I love him, man. I thought the King impersonation was awesome.
That was pretty good.
Glad we got him.
His scar wasn't bad either. Like in Kingdom Hearts when he did it here, it was pretty good. I have to give it to him.
So, Young, final thoughts on James Horan / Skullface. What do you think?
You know, I had all these Skullface questions lined up, and a lot of them I had to skip because I'm like, you know, he just doesn't know. He just doesn't know much about this character, and it's weird that they wouldn't tell the actors themselves about their own characters. I think they tell them enough that they can to allow them to deliver the line in a specific way, but what they do with that, they don't know. They just say the lines, and that's crazy to me because, I mean, that's a good... No, that's smart, though, because, see, they don't want people like us to extract information from them. So freaking... Yeah, no, this is... Yeah. This makes a lot of sense. No, same with Christopher Randolph. Like, some of the stuff he said, they had to pry. He had to pry Konami and Kojima for information.
Yeah. I think they're being very under wraps about all this stuff.
It's smart, but I don't know, maybe if he knew a bit more about his character, he could, I guess, deliver his lines a little more... I don't know, not that I'm saying he's not doing a good job, but I feel like maybe put a little more into it than he would without knowing these facts. But,
I feel like Christopher Randolph and Stephanie Houston have been our most like productive interviews when it comes to information. This one, like I said, was just as enigmatic as the character himself.
There were a few like cool hints here and there towards the beginning, I think. But as the interview went on, it was just kind of like, I don't know, I really don't know. I don't know. I'm like, this is weird.
Like at some point, I started kind of feeling bad because I'm like, a lot of my questions are kind of that too.
Yeah,
I had to switch that up. I'm like, maybe I should start asking different.
Yeah, we varied. I mean, we varied. I think the first half was Metal Gear, and then the second half was more spread open. And he seemed like he didn't mind telling us he didn't know. But somebody just called me Python Selkin.
What? Somebody called you.
Somebody said because I just said that I thought he played the net. You guys are rude, man.
Conspiracy theory confirmed.
You know what I mean to me? Like I hear it. Like I don't know. It could just be me. It might just be me.
I think it's just you.
I've been wrong once, so I mean, it could happen again. So, man, the character of Skullface definitely, at least to me. The way that they portray it, as Young said, seems like a really big character, but pretty much a solid confirmation here that he doesn't have too much. He said he recorded everything in about a day, maybe 2 days or so. But we got to keep in mind that when we talk to people like Phil Lamar and even just recently Mark Meir, they can get a lot done in a day. You know what I mean? Mark said he recorded most of the Paragon. Stuff in one day as far as like the interrupts go, and there's a ton of those, throughout the game. So I mean, it's not out of the question that he's going to have some stuff in there, but I mean, it could vary. James was very very careful not to say much about it.
I don't know. I feel like he actually did forget a lot about it because when he did,
it's been a while.
When he tried to deliver the lines as Skullface when we asked him to. Yeah. It didn't sound like Skullface. Like it sounded like his voice, but it wasn't him playing.
Right.
Because it's been so long, and not to say anything. He's a very talented guy, and he's awesome at what he does. But I'm sure it's been just that long, and he hasn't really been back in the studio for that long, and he hasn't had that many lines, or he hasn't had enough lines to remember some of these things. So it's It's
Like,
weird.
it almost went to a point where he almost forgot the fact that he was Skullface in some sense.
Yeah.
And it makes sense though. I mean, it's been well over a year now since Ground Zeroes came out, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the voice work is well and done in MGS5 at this point.
Yeah.
But it
He said he's been done for a while. He said he's been
yeah,
done for almost a year, I believe
yeah.
is what he said.
So I guess Skullface really doesn't have that big of a role.
Yeah.
At least speaking wise, maybe he
Yeah.
just does. Maybe he's more like Ocelot. You know, he really doesn't have that many lines if you think about it.
Yeah.
But he does a lot in the background. So maybe it's that
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I don't really know.
Yeah,
It's weird.
exactly. I mean, there's
Confused.
ways to write the plot where he's only got to say a couple things, and then due to events in the story, it looks like he did all of this, this kind of stuff. So I'm even more curious now to see than I already was, and I'm going to go back and listen to all the Ground Zeroes tapes again, so I can try and extract as much information from that as that we got today from James, which is the last subject that I'll touch on before we sign off. Is James mentioned that maybe players will be able to see Skullface as an ally. Do you think that's a possibility? Do you think?
I think he
Joe?
was hoping we'd be able to see him as an ally. I don't think he really knew. I think same with Christopher. When I asked him the same question, he said, "Yeah, I mean, I recorded these lines. I don't know how they're gonna use them. I don't know if certain lines are for, I guess, this a story path or that. I just record the lines. I think it's the same for James, where he just did the lines. He really has no idea how that's all gonna play out. I think he's just given like for the rape thing, he didn't even know that.
Right.
I would imagine he'd remember that pretty clearly, but he was like, I think all they did was give him like, okay, there's something really bad happening right now, and just say your line like that. And he's like, okay, I'll say it like that, and then he just nailed it. And then they're like, yeah, okay, that's all the information we're gonna give you.
And
Moving on.
Yeah, he's just like,
it has to have been like where he's just in a booth. He must have been the first person to record his lines.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? And then they did Chico and Paz, after that, because like you said, Young, he had no idea. Did you see when we said that, his reaction?
Yeah, he was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I
Are we
let
talking
somebody
about the
rape
same game?
somebody. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that sums that up. And I guess last question for you, Ronan. What do you think about how he talked about being an ally first, and then towards the end of the interview saying that Skullface is kind of an uber villain? What do you think about that, man?
I don't know. Like a part of me wants to say that it could have some implications about what goes on with Skullface and the Phantom Pain, but then there's that other part of me that says, a lot of voice actors kind of want their characters to be on top for the most part, to be that big, the big character to have the bigger roles. So I feel like part of that came from his ability to say, what, maybe I want my character to be the uber villain. Maybe I want my character to be the big role into the game. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
It sounded more like, I hope that's the kind of role I play.
Yeah,
but he really doesn't know much about the character he played. It's crazy. It's weird.
I think
It's
that's
hard to
about
say.
it, man. There we could speculate all day. Tell you what, there's a ton of things. So to close out news and announcements, we will have Raiden, aka Quentin Flynn, coming on not this next week coming up, but the weekend of the 23rd. I'm not sure who we're gonna have this week coming up. I don't know if we can schedule somebody in that short of time. I mean, the way these voice actors go, I actually think we probably could do it, because Quentin wanted to come on tomorrow. He was like, I said, when can we get you on? He's like, how about Sunday? And I'm like, we've got James this day. I wouldn't have enough time. He's out of country on the 16th, but he's back on the 23rd, and that's when he's going to be joining us. So mark that in your calendars. I'm going to update the stream bio so that everybody can see that.
For this one.
So we'll have Quentin Flynn, and he does quite a few things as well. He does, all of these characters. He's in a few other video games. He does voiceovers for True TV, for those crime dramas, for those of you who like that kind of thing. He does a lot of work, and maybe we can get him to prank call David Hayter again, like he did that one time. But also, you heard, live here today that James is going to put out a line to Robin Atkin Downs for us, who's been steadily escaping my grasp. I've called him his agent a few times. I've tried to get him in there to the interview quite a few times, and he's just a busy guy. Probably my email gets lost in all of his emails and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna have James help us through that. And we've got people like Christopher Randolph helping us get Jennifer Hale and Heather Haley. So we've got people lined up. I just don't know solid dates on them, but we will keep you updated. Young will keep you updated. Ronan will keep you updated.
Yep.
We're making them connections
on all this
every second.
And if you're new to the stream, I see that we had I think we maxed out today about 300 something people like that. Yeah. The change to the hitbox, I want to address that real quick. FraggedNation is still a thing, so anybody in here that thinks FraggedNation is gone, no, we're the same people. You can see our logo and our overlay banner is the same. Nation Fusion owns FraggedNation.
I'm actually Yong's twin. I don't know if you noticed. I'm not really Yang.
Boom. Yong's evil twin confirmed.
No, not really. No.
Yang,
anyway,
you're hilarious, man. But yeah, so we're still here. This is the same interview team. If you will follow us on this channel, we definitely appreciate it. If you were already following us, there's no need to do anything. All of our previous followers will still get the notifications and all of that kind of stuff. So if there's any issues with that, hit it up with Hitbox if you're not getting your emails or whatever. But this is the new home for the interviews. FraggedNation is still a thing. FraggedNation YouTube is still a thing. It's just the interviews right now are taking place on Nation Fusion TV. And just to explain something, I know a bunch of people were asking why. Nation Fusion has better connections and they're more pull. When I'm trying to get an agent to talk to me or a celebrity to come on the show, they're going to recognize Nation Fusion's ad networks and things like that more than FraggedNation, where they're just more geared towards competitive gaming. Nation Fusion does everything as a whole. So it's going to be a little more easy to do that kind of thing. And there's also going to be a breadth of features coming up here that we'll talk about maybe during the next interview to have the fans kind of participate with us and some more upcoming fun stuff for you guys, maybe getting your questions answered directly on the stream. Myself and the team. Okay, you're a cool cat. Just knocked my game off the counter.
Pissed. Interview's over. He doesn't want it to stop.
Cat wants attention.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, with that said, we're going to be bringing you bigger and better interviews with bigger and better gameplay and more fun games and the games that you guys want to see in the pre-show and hopefully better post-shows as well. So that's my spiel. Ronan, final words and stuff for the fans.
Actually, going off of the whole Nation Fusion thing, feel free to, send us questions if you guys have questions either related to the guests we have coming up or questions that you want to ask us about the interviews themselves. I know on my channel on Hitbox, I have a separate banner listed for Ask Me Anything, which goes to a Tumblr page. Now, I'm pretty sure that could be a double-edged sword when you ask people to ask you anything. So, hey, I'll take what you got. Just keep in mind, I'm not going to answer every question. But anyways, so that's all I wanted to get out of the way. So just keep that in mind. But anyways, thank you guys for hanging out and watching this interview. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Appreciate, James stopping by as well. It's kind of fortunate we didn't get a lot of answers about Skullface out of him, but from the way he made it seem, he didn't really know too much about the character itself.
Yeah. From
what we gathered. So that is what it is. But anyways, you guys have a wonderful day or night, depending on where you are in the world. You all stay classy, stay sharp. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and I will see you guys next time.
All right, guys, and Daily over here from Nation Fusion, FraggedNation Networks. We appreciate everybody stopping by. Great turnout today. I was really, really happy with the amount of people that stopped by today. I think we're going to put up a poll at the end here, and if anybody that's in the chat right now, if you'll just give us a few seconds to sign off and then vote, I'm going to put up a poll on what day you would like these interviews to become regularly scheduled, and then we're going to do our best to get them on the day where we can maximize the amount of people that are going to be here. But keep in mind, there are going to be times in interviews with, they're just pop up. For instance, Stephanie Houston only had that time between this day and this day, so those kind of things we can't help, but we'd like to have this, as a regularly scheduled thing. That way people don't miss it and people can plan to be here if they want to. So I'm going to put that poll up here as soon as we sign off. And if anybody left in the chat would be willing to vote on that, I'd really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much from everybody here at Nation Fusion and FraggedNation. And we'll see you guys next time here on FraggedNation Nation Fusion TV. Yong.
Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody. We had another great interview, and be sure to check these guys out. They're amazing people. Check out Ronan and Daly and FraggedNation, Nation Fusion. Check them all out because they totally deserve it. They do amazing content, and I'll see you guys next time. Yong out.
All right, guys. Thanks.